Arrested Development ran from 2003 to 2005 until it was abruptly canceled. Now, in 2013, Netflix has brought it back, but is it the same Arrested Development that you know and love?
Excuse me?
Hello?
Dad! Oh my God. Oh, there is kind of a girl here. Didn't say it was your cousin.
No, right?
Michael.
Joe.
Lindsay.
George Michael?
Lucille.
Tobias Funke? George. Maybe.
Buster.
I just want my son to have a job where his incompetence won't be out of place.
Well, that's not a great sign.
Before I begin this review, I would just like to let you know that I created a shirt based on one of my favorite gags in Season 4, Show Stealer Pro Trial version. Check it out. If you'd like to purchase it for yourself, click the link down in the info. I, like many, although I guess not enough, loved Arrested Development Seasons 1, 2, and 3, and I was really looking forward to Season 4, but I was very, very curious to see how it would work out because the show ended in 2005, and now it's back in 2013, 8 years later. Would it be the same? Would it be different? I didn't really know what to expect, but I'm happy to say that it is very, very impressive. No matter what, Season 4 of Arrested Development is extremely impressive to the point where my brain can't fully comprehend the entire scope of it yet. But it's hard to ignore that it is definitely different than Seasons 1, 2, and 3. I think in a good way, or at least a very interesting way, but a lot of people seem to think in a bad way, and so I'd like to get a little more into that. But overall, I really, really enjoyed Season 4, and I will definitely be watching it again at least 1 or 2 more times to fully appreciate the whole thing. But let's get a little more into Arrested Development Season 4, starting off with the plot and the writing, and this is where I was extremely impressed. The whole thing is so intricately planned out that, like I said, my brain still hasn't been able to completely accept and understand everything that I saw and witnessed in Season 4. The whole thing is basically one long episode. It's non-linear, it's all crossover, so something that happens in Episode 1 can come back in Episode 10 and then make sense, and the fact that it's like this, I think, led to a lot of confusion for me as well, because for the first few episodes I was thinking, you know, I'm into it, it's interesting, but it's definitely not as funny, and I realized the reason that it feels like it gets funnier as it goes on, because I did think it got better as it went, is not because it actually did get better as it went, it's because the humor is retroactive. You have to go back and watch it again with the knowledge of what happens later on to appreciate the early episodes. So like I said, something that happened in Episode 1 might not make sense until Episode 10, and then if you go back and watch Episode 1 again, it's hilarious. A perfect example of this retroactive humor is a scene early on in Season 4 where Henry Winkler is trying to prove that he couldn't reach around a fence or reach a latch or something like that, and the scene is just kind of weird. It's like, what is the point of this? What's going on? It's not that funny, but then later on in the season, you see him purchasing a ladder, and then he gets caught with the ladder by that same spot as earlier on, and there's just so many jokes in Season 4 that you can't pick up on, like I said, until you know what happens later on. It's really, really interesting. And this whole concept really just fries my brain. I definitely can't wait to watch it all again, because I'm sure I will not think it got better. I will think that it was pretty much even through the whole thing, and I'll probably pick up on a million things I still didn't notice, because I honestly feel like I've maybe gotten 40% of the jokes, 40% of the references, 40% of the things happening in the background. I feel like I barely scratched the surface on one viewing. Now, while I think all of this is extremely, extremely impressive, I do think that it had sort of a con in the sense that it wasn't as laugh-out-loud funny. The whole season is definitely not as laugh-out-loud funny, although I do think it gets to be a little bit more like that as it goes on, so I think on a repeat viewing, I will laugh out loud more with more knowledge. Like I said, it's very confusing, but hopefully it all makes sense. But honestly, that didn't bother me that much because I was so engrossed and so interested in the story and how it was all connecting that I just wasn't really that put off by the fact that I wasn't cracking up every couple of seconds. Now, directing-wise, I think it was very, very similar to previous seasons, although it felt a little bit subdued and a little bit slower, and I'm not exactly sure why. I haven't been able to figure it out completely, but I definitely noticed, or I think I noticed, that there were more static shots. I don't think the camera was really as all over the place as it was in previous seasons, and so I feel like that kind of takes down the energy a little bit. Obviously, the fact that it's this big, huge scope of a non-linear crossover story, that might also have to do with it because they're just focused on making sure that you get everything you need to get. But I would say the main thing I noticed that I don't think was present in the previous seasons, if I remember correctly, was a lot of green screen. Now, there was a little bit of trouble right before Season 4 was released where they said that there was a lot of green screen used to bring all the actors together because they couldn't all be on the set on the same days and stuff like that. And I was definitely worried about that. But I have to say, aside from from a few spots here and there that weren't a big deal, I didn't notice it. The one major character put into a scene that was just really, really bad was Henry Winkler in the police station. That was terrible, and I was really worried when I saw that because it was early on. I was thinking, oh shit, is this what the whole season's gonna be like? But it's really just that. I only noticed that. And obviously, aside from characters being put in, there was a lot of green screen in people driving cars and stuff like that. I thought it was weird because I don't remember that being in seasons 1, 2, and 3, but maybe they had to, I don't know. And acting-wise, I have to say that I think everybody, for the most part, just jumped right back into their roles, and it was like the show never ended. It was like it went from season 3 to season 4 with no difference, obviously, except for the fact that they look older, but that's what happens with time. You age, so I'm not complaining about that. Unfortunately, I have to say I thought Will Arnett was the one that really didn't fully get back into character. I thought he felt a little bit subdued as well, and I don't know why. It just felt like he was not as crazy and zany as he always was. He was great, regardless, but just, you know, watching season 3 and then watching season 4, you know, going back to back, he definitely felt a little bit off. Portia de Rossi doesn't even look like herself, so that was kind of confusing, and that actually was throwing me off for a little bit because I was thinking, this isn't even Lindsay, but it is. And while I thought everybody did a great job, I'm not going to go into everybody. I do think Tobias and Buster were the best. I thought they jumped in perfectly, even better than perfectly. Unfortunately, Buster's not in it enough. I really wish he was in it more, but Tobias knocked it out of the park. His episode was the first one where I was cracking up, the one where it ended with the To Catch a Predator sequence. I thought that was one of the funniest scenes in any season of the show. I thought it was incredible. I would like to add that I thought it was great that Ron Howard was in it so much. I thought his narration was perfect, by the way. It was exactly the same as it always was, but him being in the show was very funny because I think he's a very funny guy, and he worked perfectly. It was kind of adorable, actually, knowing that he's been narrating the whole thing and seeing him, even though he was in an episode, I think in season 3, obviously being in it more was pretty cool. And overall, with all of the cast, I think that they actually progressed as characters in season 4, or maybe from season 1, 2, and 3 to season 4. It really felt like they evolved a bit, and so I thought that was great. I mean, it certainly wasn't even necessary to do that. It could have just been the same exact thing. The whole show could have been the same exact thing as seasons 1, 2, and 3, but I really, really appreciate the hell out of the fact that they did something different, and they certainly didn't do anything wrong. If you don't find it funny or if you didn't enjoy it, it feels like, you know, they knew what they were doing. They could have easily made something that was identical to the previous seasons, but if you don't like it, you just don't like it. I don't think they failed at all. I think they succeeded in bringing this really, really impressive feat to life, and I gotta say, I can't wait to see what comes next, and I really hope something does come next because it was left a little open-ended, and I'm wondering what happened to certain characters, and I felt like I missed something, and I was thinking, do I have to go back and watch the whole thing again? But I asked around, and apparently it was as open-ended as I thought, so I really, really hope we get to see more Arrested Development very, very soon, because I did obviously binge-watch it. But I'm extremely curious to know what you thought of Arrested Development Season 4. Have you watched it multiple times? Have you even watched it in full yet? Let me know if you enjoyed the fact that it was different, or if you just wish it was exactly the same as the previous seasons. Let me know if you thought it was funny, or if you thought it was dull. Let me know what you thought of the cast. Do you think they jumped right back in, or did you think they were all off? Also, let me know if you picked up on any jokes that it seems like a lot of people aren't picking up on, such as that Henry Winkler thing. I thought that was brilliant, and a perfect example of that retroactive humor. Don't forget to click the link in the info to check out the Show Stealer Pro trial version shirt that I created. Seriously, one of the funniest gags in the whole thing. Let me know anything that you want about Arrested Development Season 4, and that's pretty much it.